Right, so as the national lockdown continues, the fathers are urged to continue to pay their maintenance to their ex-wives and the mothers of their children. Some mothers are struggling to feed their children because some fathers are using the coronavirus pandemic and the lockdown as an excuse not to pay maintenance. To take the discussion further now, we're joined via Skype by divorce and custody specialist Shando Theron from Theron and Theron Attorneys. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Theron. Thank you so much for joining us here on the SABC News channel. So let's just hit straight to it. Can COVID-19 be used as an excuse not to pay child maintenance?
No, Palesa, COVID-19 can't be used as an excuse to pay child maintenance, but maintenance, if you look at Section 15 of the Maintenance Act, maintenance is a means test. So if your means is reduced by COVID-19, for instance, I have many clients who are airline pilots who are now struggling because they make most of their money from flying hours. And if the airplanes aren't flying, they aren't making money. So if your income is being reduced by COVID, or because your job hours, your flying hours, for instance, has been reduced, then that is certainly a reason to ask for reduced maintenance.
All right, but one can also argue that there are funds like the unemployment insurance funds for those people who have been affected, which are still paying out. So why not use that money or share it with your children instead of literally defaulting on the payment?
Oh, no, absolutely. There certainly is a point to be made out for the fact that if you're receiving funds from other sources, including the unemployment insurance fund. But just remember, the unemployment insurance fund doesn't pay your face part thereof. So if your income has been reduced, and maintenance is a means test, maintenance is based on your income. If you were making 10,000 Rand, and of which you were distributing 3,000 of that to your children, and now you make 3,000 Rand, no matter how much you want to do it, you just don't have the money. You should still pay. Bottom line is never stop paying. But a reduced income, if your income has been reduced by 70%, then there is a case to be made out for your maintenance contribution to also be reduced.
All right, but what arrangements can fathers who cannot afford to pay maintenance due to these salary pay cuts that you're referring to, what can they do? What's the best way to go about doing it?
The best way is put your pride in your pocket. Contact your ex, contact the mother of the children, say to him, listen, this is the situation. Here is what I was making, this is what I was making now, and this is what I can afford to pay now, and I will pay it. She then, if she's not happy with it, is welcome to take you to the maintenance court. The maintenance courts are open. But if you stand there, humiliating as it is, in front of the maintenance court and say, but listen here, I'm paying less because I'm making considerably less, the court will listen to you. If you're not in willful default. So best is I would send the mother an email, or I talk to her. I know it's humiliating, but I'd make an arrangement with her and I say, listen, this is just temporary. Things are going to change, but until they change for the better again, this is what I can afford right now. I'm giving you fair notice. Because let's face it, schools may also accept lesser money, and you might get a payment holiday on your credit card. So, you can move things around, but if you make less, there is certainly a argument to be made out for paying less.
So what happens in an instance where I decide to take my ex-husband maybe to court for the fact that he hasn't been paying and blames it on the COVID-19, but has not necessarily, as you say, formally informed me to say these are the circumstances, I'm not able to pay the usual amount. What then happens? How compelling can the courts be in this regard?
The courts can be quite compelling because maintenance matters take quite a long time. They drag out. However, there were amendments made to the Maintenance Act September 2018, which means the court can now grant an interim order while the maintenance matter drags on. So the court can now order you to say, listen, in the interim, pay X amount until the matter is finalized. So the courts can be quite compelling. You can also, what usually happens is a criminal charge gets laid against you, a Section 31 criminal charge, because you are in contempt of a maintenance order, in contempt of a court order. But if you then stand there in front of the court and say, listen, I'm not in willful default, I'm in default because I've lost my job or my income has been sliced by 70%, then they will convert that matter into a maintenance inquiry to see what you can pay.
What's the status quo now? Are first-time applications for maintenance still being processed currently as we are on lockdown level 3?
Yes, Palesa. Maintenance applications, domestic violence applications, and children's court matters are proceeding as normal.
All right. So In terms of the clients that come to you, what have your observations? And perhaps, I don't know if you may have the numbers, but we've seen that other countries have actually seen an increase in divorce cases since the lockdown. Has that been the case perhaps in South Africa? We've seen a rise in the number of gender-based violence cases since the lockdown. What are your observations? Are people divorcing in their large numbers due to the lockdown?
My observations is certainly the issues that have been pressing, where I have gotten more inquiries about, is certainly divorce, is certainly domestic violence issues that have surfaced now. And I think generally, if couples who are married, they start off in the domestic violence court, they generally end up in the divorce court. So there has been an increase of people, husbands fathers contacting me and saying, listen, I can't afford maintenance. What must I do? My income has been sliced, especially airline pilots. Then, of course, there's been an uptick in domestic violence matters. These are people, funny enough, a lot of people who were divorced already and who now are also running in with that is people having trouble seeing their children, where the other parent is now using COVID as an excuse not to have the children go to the other parents. Unfortunately, where people are busy getting divorced, people are now using the COVID as a time to almost settle scores and using the children to do so, unfortunately. I've seen a real uptick in that.
All right, Shando, that's where we'll leave the discussion, but thank you so much for coming through. We thank you for your time.
Anytime.
Shando Theron is a divorce and custody specialist from Theron and Theron Attorneys, talking to us about what to do in terms of paying your maintenance for your kids during the lockdown. So in a nutshell, what he says is that put your pride in your pocket if you cannot afford now due to the COVID-19. Let your ex-wife know that it's a bit impossible. Make arrangements, because if that doesn't happen, they've got a right to take you to the maintenance court, which will then compel you to pay.